Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, partnering with donors from all walks of life to improve southeastern Virginia through grants, scholarships, and leadership initiatives. Learn more at hamptonroadscf.org.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Tariffs, the dismantling of the Department of Education, the deportation of alleged Venezuelan gang members without judicial process, revised and or deleted and then restored Black history on federal websites. Can you keep up with all that's happening under the Trump administration? No worries. The Another View Roundtable is here to bring insight and perspective. And we have a new member of the Roundtable, one who brings a conservative point of view to the conversation. Stay tuned. Another View will be right back after this national, regional, and local news from NPR and WHRO News.
Discussing today's topics from an African-American perspective, this is Another View.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. I am so excited this evening. I will have the pleasure of interviewing David Brooks of the New York Times as a part of the Virginia Humanities 50th anniversary celebration. It's going to be happening at the Altria Theater in Richmond, and their tickets are available to the public. So if you happen to be in the area, it starts at 8 o'clock this evening, and come on by, and it's going to be a great conversation. And as a full disclosure, I am a board member of the Virginia Humanities. So there you go. So it's enough to make your head spin, and you need a scorecard to keep up with all of the changes happening under the Trump administration. We have a lot to talk about with our roundtable today, so let's meet our roundtable pundits. Dawn Hester is an educator and has been politically active for years, serving on Norfolk City Council and as a delegate to the General Assembly. She currently serves as the treasurer for the city of Norfolk. Hey, Dawn.
Hey. Hello, everybody.
Missed you. Haven't been with. I was the one who was gone, not you guys. Gayleen Knoyton is best known as a connector. She currently serves as first vice chair organization with the Democratic Party of Virginia, and she's also the president of the Hampton NAACP. Hey there.
Hey there. Glad to be here.
Glad you're here. And joining us for the first time is Kevin Adams. Kevin has over 26 years of technical experience in the operation and maintenance of shipboard systems, machinery, and habitability of shipboard spaces with the United States Navy. In addition to serving our country, he owns Adams Family Handyman Service, LLC, lives in Virginia Beach, and he was the Republican candidate for Virginia State Senate in 2023, representing District 22 in Virginia Beach. Hey, Kevin.
Well, hello.
Thank you so much for joining us.
It is my
You want to
pleasure.
tell our audience a little bit more about you real quick?
Well, as you said, I'm a 26-year Navy veteran. I served in 11 ship service craft, and I've basically fought in every armed conflict, from Grenada to Operation Enduring Freedom, where my ship launched the first combat operation of that freedom. Wow. I even had opportunity to be down in Guantanamo Bay several times, but the last time, just before I retired, was for the detainee operations down there. So I have a wide breadth and of the military and how it operates. Got out of the Navy and had to get a job. So I took the experiences that I learned through those times in the shipyard, and I figured out that everybody needs a good handyman.
That's true.
It doesn't matter what party you're in, you need a good handyman. And so I figured that I would do the things that needs time, tools, and talents that a lot of men don't have anymore. Mm-hmm. And that's been a great opportunity for me to meet a lot of people, but most importantly to raise my family. Sheila and I are a family of 11. We have 6 boys and 3 girls. We've homeschooled our children. 5 of us have served or is serving in the military, Air Force, Marine Corps, Navy. Mm-hmm. And I was asked once if you had to tell listeners in 10 seconds about you, what would you say? And I had to think about it for a moment. And what came to mind is, first of all, I love the Lord. Mm-hmm. Secondly, I love this country. And thirdly, I love people. I mean, if anybody gets a chance to be within my sight, I can find something good in everybody. God made us in such a way that there's always something good, and I have enjoyed that. And every venue that I go in, I actually walk away with making friends and influencing people. And I think that's what it's all about. And I think we need more of that, because once we start basically living by God's principles, and a lot of the problems that we have will kind of fade to the background, because put two people together, they'll come up with solutions.
And that's what we're going to talk about going forward. Welcome to the round table. Thank you so much. So let's get started, guys. President Trump on Wednesday abruptly reversed course on steep global tariffs that have caused major upheaval in the stock market, upset some members of his own party, and raised fears of a recession. Just hours after the tariffs went into place on nearly 60 countries, the president changed his mind and put the tariffs on pause for 90 days. Instead, he placed a 10% reciprocal tariff on our trading partners, except for China. All Chinese imports have a 125% tariff. Now, when people hear all of this, their eyes glaze over. But why should Joe Citizen care, Dawn, since you're in the numbers?
Because I'm in the numbers, because I'm living like everybody else too and paying attention, because we should all pay attention, because there is uncertainty. And in that uncertainty and knowing how much things are going to go up, because we know things are going to go up, what are all those things that impact our lives that will then impact our pocketbooks? Mm-hmm. And so I'm one of those people who hadn't looked at my 401k because I don't want to know. I hear the numbers, so I know how much things drop. And based on what I know I have in my funds, I know how much I've lost. And I know how long it took for me to earn it. But then, I think about people who don't have a 401k and who are just living from day to day or paycheck to paycheck, or every got a tiny bit of savings, but not a lot. So I'm really concerned about what we as people are going to have to do in order to begin taking care of people. Because even with our cities now going through their budget process, our universities losing research dollars, how many individuals are going to lose employment,
and have already lost employment,
right? Because research. But I'm right now I narrowed it down to Virginia, to Hampton Roads. We're going to have to figure out how to pick that up and help people get through what I feel is going to be a very challenging time.
What do you think about the tariffs, Gayleen?
I mean, I agree with what Dawn said. I think that it's going to affect our kitchen table. It's affecting our kitchen table already. And China went to 145. He did. He took it up to 145. Yes, but there's
today.
Yes, he did it today.
Wow.
And so, it's the fear of the uncertainty. But the bottom line, it's just haphazard. It's haphazard. I mean, it's like playing Russian roulette with our lives. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I'm always saying we're going to reach out to the people who voted for President Trump and upset right now because they thought they was going to be on a billionaires list, and they realized they're on the same list as us. And so we have got to work together because we're one community. And so at the end of the day, I everywhere I go and speak, I said, we can look at what's happening up in Washington, but we need to be paying attention to what's happening here on a local level. Because what's happening up there is coming down, and it's affecting budgets here on a local level. And just like you spoke earlier about, before the show started, about the money's lost with the Virginia Humanities. I mean, even over in Hampton, $20 million lost on a grant that we had for flooding. And all of these grants have gone away.
For Aberdeen,
Gardens, the oldest neighborhood oldest black neighborhood in the country. And so all of this money that was supposed to be there, and the flooding is bad over there. It's gone away, and it's impacting lives.
Yeah.
And so our job right now is to make sure we get people to the polls in November, because this is about Virginia. Is all eyes will be on Virginia, and Virginia is going to be the bedrock for democracy, and we have to make sure that we have a shield to block us what's happening in Washington, D.C.
Kevin, what's your take on the tariffs?
Well, I wanted to start with, first of all, God is in control of everything. He puts people in office and he takes them out. Just a couple of weeks ago, actually a week ago, I was with a men's group, and a young man walked in, and the first thing he talked about is the fear. And yes, there is a concern about the unknown. It is a fear about the unknown. But when real change happens, there's always things that are outside of the normal. The question was asked about the tariffs specifically. And every president going back all through my time in service that I can remember talked about tariffs. And no one has done it. It is true that China is eating our lunch. They sell us goods that are inferior. I mean, as a contractor, when I buy goods that I have to replace 2 or 3 times because of the quality of the items, and yes, people want cheap items, but not only are they sending us these cheap items, everything that we don't have markets there. You have to, in order to be able to balance a budget, you have to have the ability to be able to have fair trade, and that's fair trade across the board. Now, we saw this roller coaster ride in the stock market and everything, and full disclosure, I just wish I was fast enough to put money in the market when it went down.
That was the plan.
To me,
that was the plan. That was the plan.
And he
others
actually
knew that.
to give the devil where it's due. He actually said, "This is a good time."
He sure did.
This is a good time to do that.
And people made money.
And
Yes.
that was okay.
The
Go
plan.
ahead. Let me let you finish.
So I think it's time for a real reset. That we got to be able to do multiple things at the same time, and this tariff is just one part of the equation. The other part is to being able to bring reliable, clean energy to the country, and also to build the manufacturing class. Now I'm going to jump into national defense. We have to be able to have a strong manufacturing plane here. We can't be making weapons and everything overseas where they have our intellectual information. And we all know through COVID who was providing most of the medicines and all of the ancillary things for COVID, another country. So the United States cannot be in that realm.
So you're saying we need to bring all of that back.
We need to bring
the United States.
We need to bring it back. The middle class, particularly in the black community, was all the folks that were in the trades. I mean, you had bricklayers, and most of those trades now. I'm seeing in my business, I'm seeing foreigners doing that, but. Plasters. I mean, there was nobody around that could plaster like the black guys that did, and still to this day. That's a trade that they almost perfected. But all of those things have gone away. Our youth hasn't learned those things, and those are jobs that can provide the vehicle for a family to be able to take care of themselves, send their kids to college, and also to be able to take a vacation. But we outsourced all of those jobs. Most all the jobs, young men coming out of high school, if they don't get into trades in school, there's service jobs, and those service jobs can't support families. And we're not teaching economics. We have to teach our children how to be. That's a whole different subject. But it goes along with this economy, and it lends itself to the fear that's there. When you don't know how to pull yourself out of debt, that's a problem. If you don't know how to prevent yourself from being in debt, that's a problem.
So, but let me ask this question then. If that is the case, and I want to hear this from all of you all, bringing manufacturing back is going to take time. Learning how to do debt is going to take time. But the point being, how do people survive now? Because we're looking at real pocketbook issues that are happening right now.
But we're dealing with systemic racism, and there's going to be barriers. I mean, this administration is putting barriers in front of folks. You can teach them trades, but we want to go. We want them not to just have trades. We want people still, if they want to go to college, they need to have those options to do either or of that. But you have to realize the impact that on the overall archery, that it's not a level playing field at all. I mean, you know, they took DEIA and made it a bad word that was about preferential treatment. Let me get the word out. Preferential treatment. I'm sorry. And it's lopsided, and it's not going to be even under this administration and under this ideology. Get my words together, whatever. But it's not, because I'm very passionate about this.
I was going to say that's your emotion.
I mean, this. Yeah, I'm very passionate about this. You know, racism is a public health crisis, and it's the overarching of what's happening. We see it every day, and we can bring it in here, but unless we have the resources and take away the barriers, you're still going to have what you have right now.
Dawn, you were reacting to Kevin earlier.
Yeah, I got a whole lot of stuff written down. I can't get it all in one conversation. We'll pick and choose where we slide it in. Okay, but one thing I there's a lot I want to say. So yes, God is in control. I believe that. Everybody doesn't, but I do believe that. But he also taught us that faith without works is dead. So you got to do something in the midst of this. And so that's why, I'm just trying to help people to realize that even though it is frightening, it can steal you so that you just want to shut off from all of the negative that you're hearing and that you don't understand, that you immobilize yourself and your family. And that is what I don't want anybody, people of color I don't want any of us to do that. And no matter what your beliefs are, you really have to pay attention to what's happening around you and stay connected, because that's one of the ways that we're going to help each other get through it, which was my original thing. We're going to have to help each other get through this. So there is so much going on. I do have to throw in there, though, that in the Biden administration, the big Infrastructure Act, that's the purpose of it was to bring manufacturing back. And over a period of time, realizing that it takes a lot to put the infrastructure, and when I say infrastructure, everybody, I'm talking about the nuts and bolts, the machines, the people, the space, where you're going to build it. You got to build it and put it up. Then you have to
maintain
it, and then produce. And so we were on that path. That path has been shattered because even infrastructure money has been taken from some places that hadn't secured their dollars. So, we went from one thing, now we're in confusion. Tariffs are what they are. We've always had tariffs, but they have been tariffs that countries have negotiated versus what I feel now is just a personal tariffs that benefit the wealthy and don't benefit people like me. And, even people say, well, Dawn, you making money. I said, yeah, I am. I don't work 50 years for it. But
you still a working class.
I'm still working. I'm not, where I could have bought stocks when they were low. However, right now, I'm trying to hold on to all my little bit of money, so if I need my cash, because it's not going to be nothing, because things going to fall apart.
Like everybody else got theirs under their mattress.
And that's not the way I should be either.
Right.
But all of those are things that I have to think about. When I got grandchildren and great-grands that we trying to get
through educated one way, whichever they
think about all of those things. So that's the beginning of the things, and we'll come back to some of the other.
Can I?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me address the issue on. I think that will help the listeners get out. Again, Sheila and I raised 9 children on one income. and we're virtually debt-free because we live by some principles. And those principles, God lays it out, those principles.
Yes, he does.
Okay? And I sit down quite a bit, not only with my children, but everybody I come in contact with. So I'm so glad I have the opportunity to give these listeners an opportunity to hear it. First of all, you have to have a budget that works. And whether you're the federal government, state government, local government, you have to have a budget that works, not one that you're always dipping in it and out of it. It has to work. And then I think you have to have 3 buckets of savings. And I call it the 50-20-30 rule. 50% out of $100, $50 goes in one, 30 in the other, 20 in the other. That first bucket, if you don't have a budget, it offsets that budget so that your budget works.
So that 50 is savings.
That's savings.
Okay.
All 3 of them are savings.
All three of them
are savings.
Okay.
But that specifically, when I run short on my rent or whatnot, I go to that bucket, that 50% bucket. That 30% bucket, that's the bucket that when my transmission goes up in my vehicle, that's where I pull money out of that to pay for that. So I'm not paying 25% interest on a credit card to fix a vehicle that I have to have, or an air conditioning system, or you pick a winner. And then that 20%, it doesn't exist. That is your retirement. That is out there, and as you increase in pay, and I did that throughout my 26 years in the Navy. Every time I got a pay raise, I push money in those particular things, and we got to teach our children how to do that early. And the results of that, is I've had times where I had $30,000 bills. I just went and stroked a check and paid them off because of those principles. Well, those principles working for the family, the government has to work the same way. You have to have a budget, and you have to foresee things, and that is the job of the Congress to do that. Now, we've been talking about tariffs here, and I just want to address just my opinion. I've been hearing about them for years. Just about every president, no matter whether Republican or Democrat, talked about them, but they never did anything. And I know for a fact that when you get ready to get something going, it's going to be a big shakeup. And I anticipate for the next, and this is just Kevin Adams here, I anticipate for the next 3 to 4 months, there is going to be some upheaval. But at the end of the day, if we can get, there's a multi-pronged thing that's going on. It's just not the economy. It's also national defense and many other things that are going on that are necessary for to be able to be done in this short period of time. But that we have right now, probably, I heard it on the news. There are billions and trillions of dollars that are getting ready to get invested in the United States. That big drop in the stock market, that was bonds, because the bond folks got wobbly there. So they got some assurance that we're not going there, so that's why that changed. And we're going to see that fluctuation, but the stock market isn't a reflection of what is going on as a whole in the country, because the United States is the largest market in the world. Everybody wants a piece of our dollar. But what we can't do is let that dollar change to the yen or something else.
Let me ask you this, though, Kevin, because I hear this a lot. And when people say, we're just going to take a hit, but you got to be patient. It's only 4 months. You have a plan. You had a plan all along. So you have savings and so forth. What do you say to those people who are not able to have the 50, 30, 20, who are living paycheck to paycheck, Social Security check to Social Security check? How do they survive this bump as it seems like it's casually mentioned? You know what I mean?
I'm glad you asked. The first thing you have to do is you have to assess your individual situation. You have to look at that, and you can't eat that apple in just one bite. You have to look at the things that you have to do. You may have to downsize in an area. And this is nothing new for our community. We've been doing that all of our lives when things change. We just have to incorporate it. We have to incorporate it because this is a once in a lifetime change of things that are going on, and it's huge. This elephant is real big. You're not going to eat it in one bite. But I would say to the listeners is you got to look at where are the things where you can cut corners. And our community has been fantastic in being able to do that. That's how we've been able to survive all of these years, because we know how to do that. But over time, we've gotten to the point where we got to have it right now. Give you a good example. I'm going through a neighborhood in Portsmouth, and I'm seeing this young lady come out the house with DoorDash. Okay, first of all, you're paying probably $10 for them to bring it to you, and the food that you're buying is probably way over cost. That price on that meal there could probably feed her family for 3 or 4 days. Just that cost there. Those are the types of adjustments that we've all learned how to do in our lives. We have to teach our children how to do that, so that they're able to get through this, because we have something that is larger than just this economy. It is, we cannot afford the dollar to not be the currency of the world. And we have 36 trillion, that's with the T, in debt. And right now, the service on that debt is greater than our national defense. We don't have manufacturing here. There's a bunch of variables that are going along with what is going on here. I don't have a crystal ball to see it, but I can see the pieces that make sense. But you have to take time to try to see, okay, why are we doing this? Ask those questions and then see where they're going. We can't just deal with fear. Again, I'm going to go back to, faith. I mean, we have to understand that if we are doing what we're supposed to do, particularly as people of faith, we're going to get by.
Okay, if you're just joining us, we're talking about national and state politics with the Another View Roundtable with Norfolk City Treasurer Don Hester, Gayleen Knoyton, First Vice Chair Organization with the Democratic Party of Virginia, and Kevin Adams, veteran business owner and 2023 Republican candidate for Virginia State Senator. Gayleen, I saw your face.
You're a perfect mouthpiece for President Trump. Perfect. Because that is not, it's a great plan in terms you got to have the 20%, the 30% or whatever. But when you look at the black community as a whole and the struggles, I grew up in Detroit. All right. I grew up in the 60s. Probably next to the oldest person in this room. Maybe you and I might be on the same one. But anyway, let me just say this. I know what struggles have been like, and I know the challenges, and it's not as easy as 1, 2, 3. You got to have this, that, and the other. Yes, I taught my son how to be. My son's very good he's financially stable. I'm there to help him when he needs to be helped. But not everybody's in that type of situation. We're talking about reality here, and we're talking about people who are actually struggling, who don't have those options that are there. And yeah, when somebody go to DoorDash, you're right, it might feed, but now the grocery store prices are so high, I'm not really sure that it's going to be balanced out that way, But at the end of the day, reality, the struggles that are there, it's going to take a minute to get out of there. And the only way it's going to happen is you provide the resources and the programs to help pull these people out of this poverty level, because right now the anti-poverty programs are at stake, and everything else around and what's happening, the dismantling of everything around it is keeping that barrier there to keep the black community, the black and brown community down, keep the marginalized community still marginalized. It's just not easy like 1, 2, 3. It's not like that.
Don, you get the last word on this, and we'll move on to the next topic.
I just think a leader should be able to articulate to those that they lead,
right,
why they are doing what they're doing, the expected outcome, and how we together are going to get to the end result. And the person who is the president now, and those who work for him, are not articulating that to give me comfort as a citizen of the United States of America.
Okay, we'll leave it there for that topic, but let's move on. A major focus of the Trump administration is to eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, from not only the federal government, but educational institutions and private industry as well. So from freezing billions of dollars in funding to elite universities, to changing the narrative about Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad before restoring it after backlash from educators and historians, to the dismissal of female and minority military leaders, to threatening to withhold federal funding from public schools, to changing the names again of military bases. The list goes on and on. On February 26th of this year, President Trump said on Truth Social that, quote, DEI was a hoax that has been very bad for our country. DEI is gone. Why is diversity, equity, and inclusion such a threat to this administration? Kevin, I'm going to start with you on that one.
Well, I was born in 1961, so I'm the last of the baby boomers.
No, you're not. Oh, yeah, you are. No, 65. I thought it was 65.
That's right. No, it's 61.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I guess I'm one of the oldest ones in the room.
No, you're
No,
not.
you're not.
No, you're not.
You're the youngest,
No, you're not.
you're the youngest one in the room.
I stand corrected. Thank you.
Okay. We just look so good. That's what that is.
Well, didn't you enjoy that compliment
Yes,
I gave
we did.
you? All right. So,
That's okay. Go ahead. Answer the question.
well, my mother was born in the Great Depression, and I think that was for me. I think she brought that education to me, and she didn't have an education. She didn't even get through the third grade. She couldn't read or write, but she could run a household better than someone with a degree, and she passed those things. She passed those principles down to me, though she couldn't necessarily articulate what they are. She passed them down to me. There is a chief concern about the what's going on with this erasing of black history. I think we need to talk about all history, and we shouldn't take away anything. But every American, every immigrant, we're a country of immigrants, and everybody's got a story, and one should not be elevated over the other. One of the things that in the military they do, and we still celebrate, is Black History Month. And once I had the opportunity to talk about Black History Month, and I talked about it from the standpoint of all of those individuals that didn't look like us, that helped shape and give opportunity to us. I want to tell you about my second commanding officer.
Okay, and quick, because we got to bring them in.
Very important. Okay. My second commanding officer, I was supposed to have a school, and they dragged it out 18 months before I could get to school. The commanding officer found out about it. He drug my entire white chain of command on the carpet, and he chewed them out, and they said, "You will do this, and you will make that happen." And that changed my whole world view from a black kid growing up in the projects. And since that time, throughout my whole life, I have seen people at the right time step in and do what's right. Now, the culture of the military is great for that, and I've also seen
Kevin,
that.
how do you reconcile that with the fact that so many people of color and women have been leaders in the military, have lost their jobs since this new administration has come in?
I'm not sure all the particulars, but in any just like even in a company. I mean, if you look at the
Joint Chiefs of Staff,
right? But if you look at the
head,
the demographics of us in a community, we're extremely low. I mean, extremely low. So when you get cut, when we're cut, it looks a whole lot bigger than what it is. But in most cases, we are minorities in given areas. Again, my job, especially on the waterfront, when I was when I was in the Navy, it was probably I didn't know 8 black quartermasters with all of the ships that were down there. Mm-hmm. So, you have to look at all the details and know all the details before you can draw a conclusion. It's very easy to, just like when I go to a house to see there's a leak, right? Obviously I see water, but I got to find out why that leak is there. And it's the same thing. And it's the same thing with dealing with, these hirings and fires. You have to look at all of it in detail. And yes, I agree with you. It's happening so fast. And from somebody that's not actually in the works of it, it's hard to be able to, understand, who's getting, who, what, where, and why. Okay. So, but everything is a process. And I don't think anybody should lose their jobs. I personally don't. But you also have to see if, like in any business, and the United States is a big business, right? When you are so far in debt where you cannot recover, you have to start looking at things where you're cutting expenses and making things more, maybe upgrading things so that you can eliminate the cost. And that's, you really have to look at the government as a business, and it is a business. And you have to have a CEO, and you have to have the staff under that CEO that is going to be able to look at the big picture, from the 25,000 foot mark instead of, the small area. And I know that that's not a great answer for that person that's hurting, but when change happens, it never happens well if it's drawn out, that.
But okay, let me let the rest
Yes.
of the round table get involved. Dawn.
Diversity means that there's a mixture of minds, thoughts, people, colors, experiences. Equity means we all get to participate in it equally. Inclusion, we bring everybody to the table. I don't know why there's something wrong with that, no matter what color you are. So I don't know what's wrong with the words. The individuals who are working, in my opinion, to erase not only history, but diversity in organizations appear to me to want those organizations to be led by individuals they trust and or believe that they will do a job or something a certain way. So one, I don't understand the president's fear of diversity, equity, and inclusion, other than that he doesn't want to be around black or brown people or people who are disabled, which he has already shown us that he doesn't. However, in that sphere, he, I believe, is creating the history of the Depression to bring it back for those of us. And all people struggled in the Depression. And white people struggled too, who struggled in the Depression, to take it back there. Which to me means he's trying to put people in a place where he believes they should be. Not necessarily where we as people know we're supposed to be, wherever we're supposed to be, because the God is telling us where we need to go, because that's why we get an education, or we're working a job, or we're getting a training, or what have you. So my issue with this happening at our universities and our culture is that somebody's trying to change something, and it's not from God, it's from man. And you have to pay attention to the man. We got to pray. But God, that's just not his plan.
What is the solution?
A few weeks ago, I had a forum and had Dr. Alacia Black Hatchett on there. and she was the deputy under Janice Underwood with the EIA in Virginia. But then she also became the chief diversity officer for the U.S. Department of Labor, and then she left on January 20th. She really explained DEIA in a way that a lot of people don't look at it. You know, white women are number one on DEIA. They benefit the most. Black people are number 8. Veterans are number 2. And then you have to, the A is the disability community. So all of the amenities that veterans get, white women get in business, black people get, and in the disability community, things that they get comes all from the DEIA. All of that. And I never knew that before until she explained it. And so it's not about having certain treatments here and there. I raised my son. My son is an Eagle Scout. He was in every leadership program. I mean, he went to University of Richmond. He was the SGA president. He went to UVA, you know, for masters or whatever. You know, he works for the federal government and his dream job, and he's got to worry every single day. He was not chosen because he was black. He was chosen because he was qualified.
Amen.
But I worked very, very hard to get him to where he is, and the struggles that I went through to get him there, because I had to fight the system throughout that whole process for what he was going through.
And DEI was created intentionally to overcome the barriers of the system, the systemic
system. That's
issues
exactly what it
that we're
is.
facing.
The system. That's what it's there. That is the overarching issue, and everybody is only looking at it to be black and brown, and that's it. But it's not.
But when you have the leader of our country say the reason that the Black Hawk helicopter and the plane ran into each other was because of DEI in the FAA, you are sending a very subtle message.
It's not subtle, it's clear.
Okay, then you're sending a clear message particularly to the base, to his base, that
That's who he speaks
this
to.
is a problem because of, you know, immediately you hear DEI, you hear black and brown, or that's the thought, when that's not the case in terms of what it actually is.
And so the teaching that Gayleen just gave us right now, that when you look at DEI, if our military, our white women are 1, military is 2, disabled is in there, you're just talking about people in their lives and trying to make sure they have access.
And let me just say this. And when I say, and let me break it down to a little even further for women. So now, you know, because of DEIA, women now can go into another room and they can pump breast milk for their baby.
Right.
That's under DEIA. When we look at for the disability community, for them to be able to have certain broadbands, certain things to see things, certain amenities to help them live, that's DEIA.
Curbside, when the curbs are fixed so that the wheelchairs can go up and down. That's part of their project.
All of that falls under DEIA, and it's not about having certain treatments.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think we'll all agree. I think we'll all agree that, particularly when it comes to public safety, defending our country, we want the top qualified people doing that. And I will tell you that in our community, we have a lot of those top performers. There's a lot of top performers in every other community. But the bottom line is that the person has to be the top performer. And particularly when you're talking about driving an airplane.
But who's saying that?
But why? Right? Why would the assumption be that they're not?
That's just it. It's the assumption.
But General Wynn was a top performer, and he got fired as superintendent of VMI.
I don't have the history on it.
Oh, we got the history on it. Trust and believe, we got the history on it.
And each one of those individual circumstances should be adjudicated. And I agree with that. And if in fact it's a problem, then that should be addressed.
We would be adjudicating forever.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I get that.
Because anyway. Just read. I know we got to go.
Yeah, because I want to make
We run
sure
out
we
of
get
time.
in this
Yes,
next
ma'am.
topic before we go, and that is Virginia's race for governor will make history this year. All but guaranteeing the Commonwealth's first female
and it's
governor.
not DEIA either.
And it's not. Democrat Abigail Spanberger, a former congresswoman and CIA officer, will face Republican Lieutenant Governor Winston Earl Sears, a Marine veteran, for Virginia's highest office. Now, do you think, is this race going to be about national politics or Virginia issues? And will this be an indication, whoever wins, of what we have to look forward to in 2028?
Well,
Go ahead. Well,
I personally think that there's going to be national involvement because of, okay? It's going to be national involvement. But I tell you what's on the table for all Virginians. Listen to me, the candidate that ran for state office, and she supported me 100%. We have to have a General Assembly here that is willing to bring industries into Virginia. My wife and I met with the representative of a billionaire that was going to bring manufacturing to this country, to the state of Virginia. And he called me in October, just before the election, and said, we're going to have to back off because it doesn't look like we're going to have a General Assembly that is going to be favorable to us bringing these billions of dollars to the Commonwealth of Virginia. The economic boom that would have been that would have brought was enormous, and I saw that personally. And we have to have conditions here. We have one of the largest ports on the east coast of the United States. We have manufacturing going in out of here. This will be one of the biggest booming states on the east coast of the United States, particularly with the Port of Baltimore being shut down because of the Key Bridge. So we have to have someone that understands business, and she's a small business owner. Someone that knows.
Who is she?
yeah, who are you talking about?
I am talking about Winsome Sears.
Okay.
Again, I know her personally. Matter of fact,
Wait a minute, we got a few more minutes,
Yeah,
y'all. Come on,
I
we
know.
got to get in here. Get in
matter
right
of fact, there's her book. I read it. I read it.
Okay.
And so she is. We're gonna get in here. She's the one that said that Brown v. Board of Education was about school choice, right? And some other things that she said. I mean, and
Well, let me ask.
I can. The list can go on, but let me just say this: what's at stake? What's at stake is your kitchen table is at stake in this election right now. And this administration believes in states' rights. States' rights never worked for us before because we were protected by the federal government. We are not protected by the federal government now. People need to understand that because they believe in bringing funding right to the states. We are the last progressive state in the South. The last. All right, and then we have the expanded voting rights, women's rights, and the list goes on. And so, what's at stake in this election is to have a firewall to go against what's happening in Washington, because the federal government will not protect us. It will be the leaders in the state that will.
So if we elect leaders that are looking out for the interest of, all Virginians, all communities, we will have the infrastructure. We will have the education opportunities.
You got stuff happening now, but you have a governor in Virginia that's stopping a lot of this stuff that's going on here. But that's another conversation.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dawn.
Let me get Dawn in here first before make sure we get her opinion.
So I am supporting Abigail Spanberger. To make that clear, I am a Democrat. I am that. I know that she is the best person to lead the state.
She is.
And will lead the state that is inclusive of all people. But I want to add that as having been a member of the legislature, did I say the right word?
Yes, you did.
Anyway, I've been a delegate. I've been putting that. Let me just say it. I've been a delegate. So I've been up there and participated in what goes back and forth. You can say that an industry wants to come in and bring billions of dollars. I must say that I think that our state has done well, and we're doing well with our reserves, and we need to hold on to them. However, you have to give more detail to people. You can't just say that an industry wants to come in and not say what kind of industry, because it might not be a good industry.
Well,
I don't want to debate it with you, but we can do that the next time. But
I do want to
you
share
have
with
to
you what
be
the industry was.
clear
Okay, let her finish her
about
point and I'll come back to you.
everything and all the conversations that we're having. And so we're at the end of this conversation. I know it will need to continue.
Yes.
I am just so surprised that nobody emailed us to call in to talk about it. And maybe the conversation was so engaging that you all didn't feel that you need to. However, what I'm going to tell you need to do, because this might be my last time, is you need to vote. Thank you.
Well,
Go ahead.
Here's the industry that we're going to bring here. They're called small modular reactors. These are nuclear power units that one is going to provide the power that we need to have manufacturing happen. During my campaign, I actually talked to the builders. And I said, imagine this: if we have manufacturing in all of these rural areas that we don't, we can build infrastructure, affordable housing, and all the infrastructure to lift people out of poverty. Because when you have manufacturing in your country and it's booming, you know, like in Reagan, a rising tide lifts all boats. And right now
He said Reagan.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Okay.
Yeah, Reagan.
That's what he said.
When poverty was so high.
Right.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, under Jimmy Carter, my interest rate on my house was 10%. When Reagan came along, it was down to 6%.
Okay,
So
here we go. We can really go on to that one
Yeah,
now.
we can really go on.
All right, well, we only got a minute left, but go ahead.
Because I just need to add to that, because, you know, people are listening, that, yes, I've read about the nuclear power plants, power units that could be distributed. And they're trying to, it's a new thing moving across the country to provide resources, necessary power. However, once again, by the time whoever gets into office in November, that still won't be up and running until they're gone. And we done elected somebody else, because you have to put the infrastructure in place to get it. So anyway, I just needed to share that. Hey, y'all, I'm finished.
We have a minute and a half left in this show.
I gotta say one quick thing.
Okay, you may say one quick thing and then I'll let
I
Kevin
want
advise things.
everyone to go out and get their real ID.
Oh, yeah.
Make an appointment.
Yes.
Don't just walk in. Make sure you have the necessary documentation. You can go online to DMV to make an appointment, because I'm afraid that it might be barriers put on it if you don't have a real ID, and then we're going to have to go to court,
Right.
on that piece.
Right.
One
And
last
that's for your
one last
Okay, you got
point.
15 seconds.
Also, I'm asking the early mail-in ballot. Go ahead and get your early mail-in ballots. They work, and so that you can bank your vote. Absolutely.
We
gotta
agree
vote.
on that one.
Yes.
Regardless of what your party is, you gotta vote.
Because you
right?
gotta vote.
You gotta
That's right.
vote.
You gotta
That's
vote.
right.
Thank
That's
you,
right.
Roundtable. As always, you guys are great. And audience, we thank you for spending an hour of your life with us here at Another View. If you enjoyed today's program, please share it with someone else in your life that you care about. Just go to whro.org/anotherview and download the podcast. Or you can find us on Spotify or wherever you go for your podcast listening pleasure. Kevin, we want to thank you for joining us, and we've been bringing a different voice to the table. Our theme music is an original composition created especially for Another View by Jay Sennett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. Jordan Christie is our audio engineer, and Dr. Barry Graham answered our phones. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Have a fantastic weekend, and let's get together again next Thursday at noon for Another View.
Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, carrying out your charitable wishes forever, whether it's helping shelter animals, feeding the homeless, enhancing the arts, or supporting students. Learn more at leaveabequest.org.